Welcome to Business Coaching Secrets with Karl Bryan. If you want to attract new high-end coaching clients, fill live events, and build a wildly profitable coaching practice where business owners pay, stay, and refer, you've come to the right place. In this podcast, Karl provides his keys to the kingdom for finding and signing high-paying clients and building the coaching business of your dreams. Here we go.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Business Coaching Secrets with none other than Dr. Karl Bryan, attorney at law, wizard at large. Big Shoots, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing great, Road Dog. I'm doing great. What is happening? I do not have a PhD. I am not a lawyer, but anyways, it all sounds good. Let's go with it. Let's go with it.
I heard Frank Kern say that, and I'm just like, Dr. Frank Kern, attorney at law. I'm like, how did he steal that from Karl? Like, it's amazing. This is your show, my friend.
There you go. So, all right,
anyways,
what's happening, Road Dog? What's going on, Chris? We got some questions, or what do we got cooking?
Everyone tuning into the podcast, I just got to tell you, the reason that Karl's so fired up is because of the pre-show before the main show, but we'll have more on that later. Anyways, Big Shoots, let's jump right into the questions. We got some good ones here today, and right out of the gates, talk about relevant. With all the talk of the craziness and unrest of today, I'm curious of your thoughts on the quality of life now and what you see for business over the next couple of years. Specifically, are people going to be able to run and start businesses successfully? Great question. Obviously, there's a lot of craziness. That's a great word there right now. What are your thoughts, man? Because it seems to me like there's probably a lot of people that are scared to even like pull the trigger and start a business at this point.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Getting asked quality of life a little bit deep, right? But let's, so look, business, anything, look, business, marketing, wealth, right? Like three subjects I'm incredibly passionate about. They're just a game of psychology. Thinking is nothing more than answering and asking questions yourself. So effectively, and this is Tony Robbins 101, but the quality of your questions will dictate the quality of your life. So you've got to make sure that you kind of, manage that and listen to that question. I don't know, it sounds like it's a little bit victimish, right? So like, how best can I take advantage of the opportunities that the pandemic is providing me? Like that would be a significantly better question that would draw a significantly better answer. But that being said, I don't want to, of course, we want to encourage questions, not discourage them. But you know what I mean? Let's just make sure that you got to control that. Ultimately the enemy of your psychology is fear, right? And they use it against you like crazy. Like when again, this has been said to death, and we've talked about it on the podcast, and anybody who's listening to this is going to know it already. But like the media, you turn on the news, and what do they start with? It's the COVID count, right? And they don't start with the deaths. They start with the count because that's the one that's going to freak you out the most. And once again, this is not, I have clients that have got COVID, and they have said to me, look, Karl, just be very, very, in no uncertain terms, and this is very real. One of my guys, some of his hearing is impaired. He's lost his sense of, I think it's taste or maybe it's smell, but, his father died from it. So bottom line, and I don't want to freak everybody out. The bottom line is it's real, so be smart. So like imagine every time you turn on the TV that the media or the broadcaster, like, why don't they start it with, look, we are living in the middle of a pandemic, and here's what we want you to do. We want you to exercise every single day. You got to get your heart going. You got to get your lungs at a higher capacity. We want you to wash your hands consistently throughout the day. Keep your hands away from your face. Eat your vegetables and put away the chocolate. Keep your distance. You know what I mean? Like, and whatever else, and take your vitamins every day. Do you know what I mean? Like start with that at the beginning of every broadcast as opposed to the other. And we know exactly what they do. They do the opposite, and the media won't even utter, anything remotely similar to what I just said. Right. And that's the shame. But what am I trying to say? They're just like psychology, right? Like fear freaks you out. That's what gets your attention. That's what gets you, to continue to watch. So this is what they do. It's freaking crazy. But anyway, so thinking that, times are bad, there's an old Jewish proverb, peace of the home. The bottom line, and I think we should all be thinking about that, and that's, clarity, just staying peace within the home, but also peace within your own two ears. I guess that's what I'm trying to say here. But let me tell you this, the question is it a good time to start a business? There's never been a better time to be alive than right now. And that is financially otherwise. And don't let anybody tell you any different, because they're completely out to lunch. Like 50 years ago, I don't know the exact numbers, but you would spend 50% on food, 25% on shelter, and 15% on clothing. Okay. So you do those numbers and you've got roughly 10% left for discretionary spending, right? Well, today you'll spend about 30% on shelter, 15% on food only, down from 50, let's say 15% on clothing. Do that math and you're going to find that you got 40 to 50% of your money available for discretionary spending, right? So how are those two things comparable, right? And of course, there's always anomalies and that sort of thing, so factor that in. But generally speaking, there is no doubt. 50 years ago, you'd struggle to have a radio. And today, 90% of homes have a flat screen TV. And of course, they've also got access to the internet, right? 50 years ago, 10% of people owned a home. And then today it's 70, 80%. I think it's in 1950 when you do household income as an example. It was 10, 11, it was 11, between 10 and 15 grand. So let's say 12,500 was the income per household, and now it's 45 grand. And just look this stuff up. It's available on the internet for you, right? So and that, by the way, at 45 grand, that's adjusted for inflation, to be clear, right? And 68% life expectancy 50 years ago, and you'd have literally no retirement. And today it's I think the life expectancy, it's close to 80. I think it's actually 78 years old, and you got about 12 years of retirement, right? So there's just no comparison. And as far as the markets go, more people are moving from, what would we call it? Lower, into the middle class than ever before, right? And then more people are moving from middle class to upper middle class, better than ever before. So information is at our fingertips, literally, just the internet is right there. It's literally sitting in your pocket, probably for the majority of the day. Engineers have learned more in the last 5 years about, building skyscrapers, roads. They've learned more in the last 5 years than they have in the last 20 years, right? So we're learning to make, food, we're manufacturing potato chips and that sort of crap. Well, now that they're able to make food that is literally healthy for you, right? They now realize, you ever notice that there's no such thing as heart cancer, right? Because again, your heart destroys it. So they're learning from stuff like that. Heart doctors will tell you what they've learned in the last, I'm going to say 5 years, would put to bed anything that they've learned in the last 20. So these advancements are great for companies. It's scary for investors because you see these companies coming and going, right? To and froing. But more successful businesses are getting started today than ever before. And frankly, because of technology and the tools available, it's easier than it's ever been before. So make no mistake about it. So that, again, is this a good time to be starting a company? Is this a good time to be encouraging your kids to start a company? Is this a good time to be encouraging your kids, your grandkids to start a company? And the answer is just absolutely. And anybody that tells you anything different is just point blank lying to you, right? So, or no, they're using fear, because let's assume that that's the government, it's the media, et cetera, trying to freak you out. They're just using fear to control you. So Road Dog, my answer is that the quality of life right now, I don't know, it could not be higher. And starting a business there could never have been an easier time to start a company and be successful with it. So that's my answer, Shoots.
So you're saying that all things being equal, business will accelerate?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, look, okay. So back in the day, there were three things that would drive production, right? Number one is land, pretty straightforward. Number two is physical labor. And then three was capital, right? So access to money. Well, those same, when you think about it in today's, you you look at, and by the way, this is if you follow Amazon, you follow Google, and you listen to what these guys are talking about. Again, if you study billionaires and unicorn type businesses, what you'll find is that instead of land, physical labor, and capital driving production, it is now information. Okay, so think of the internet. Number two, it would be reach and distribution. Okay, and then just grab your phone out of your pocket and realize what that means to reach and distribution. And then third would be computing, like the capability of the computer, computing power, we'll call it, computing capability. And here's the magic. So think information, reach, and distribution. Well, the first two were free, literally free. And then the third one, compute, the power, the computing power, like it basically, like it doubles in capacity and halves in price with total consistency, right? So so as I say that, I want you to think about your son, your daughter, your grandkids, you thinking about going to get a business degree, spending $50,000 and then learning from a decade, if not a 25-year-old curriculum, right? And do you think that it factors in these changes? Like, unless you're studying computer science, you're going to find a lot of the time, like again, doing like a business administration or a commerce degree, you're learning from stuff that's still talking about land, physical labor, and capital, which basically means that when you're growing, you need to put the handbrake on a little bit because, like economies of scale and whatnot are incredibly expensive. But when you understand Amazon and Google, Uber, Lyft, like these types of companies, it's the exact opposite, right? So I don't know. That's, are they going to accelerate? Absolutely. But so the three grand seminal changes in technology over the last 100 years would be steam, electricity, and the internet. This is according to the Google boys, by the way, right? So I think it took steam, talking the old ages, right? I feel like I'm talking about a cartoon here, but think steam. I mean, but I think that this stuff is important when you're thinking about the advancements and how you're going to be directing, your company, and most definitely you're going to be coaching businesses to understand this stuff. Like there was steam, which then became electricity, right? Took over. Well, it took 30 years for electricity to take over steam, right? So and then the question is why? Well, the powers that be wanted to, effectively, they didn't want change, right? Again, you just go into your bank and you see banking in the government, there's no slower moving industries in the world. And by the way, they got the most money in many ways. But it's kind of mind-boggling, right? So think, what am I trying to get at? You go steam to electricity to the internet. Think of the speed at the adoption of the internet, right? Like it's literally crazy. I mean, Elon Musk is, effectively has computers that double as cars nowadays, right? With Tesla. He's talking about colonizing Mars. Bezos is building rocket ships. And then building distribution so that we can literally get things in hours as opposed to days. Bill Gates is reinventing the toilet, that guzzles water. And then if you understand, third world countries can't do that stuff. So stuff like, open source, technology, the power of that. And then, by the way, artificial intelligence. And again, Road Dog, we've talked about that. But if you think the internet has changed the way business operates, put your seatbelt on for artificial intelligence, right? It's going to revolutionize biz in a way that's just literally going to blow all of our minds, right? So, and then what does that mean? Ultimately, is business going to accelerate? Are there going to be opportunities? Is this a good time to start a company? And the answer is that when you, if you're able, if you fight against it and you want to be archaic and then not use these assets to your advantage, then you're going to be challenged in a big and real way because somebody younger, more, what do we want to call it? A little bit more crafty is going to step on you because they're going to use these tools. But if you adopt them, and don't be intimidated by it, because again, there was a time that you picked up your phone and you were completely thrown off by it. And now you use it, you know what I mean? You grab your phone and you check the weather and you check your stocks and you download an app and you click this, click that. You don't even have phone calls anymore. You just send texts, right? Again, this stuff, it's like the frog in the water, right? It's been, heating up and heating up and heating up and you never noticed, right? So you are part of that. So don't be intimidated by it, I guess is what I'm saying. And remember, it's always about psychology. And then with all that being said, now artificial intelligence, like, is business going to accelerate? Like, think about the stock market, right? So then you might look at all these changes and businesses going out of business, yada, 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 pandemic, and think, my gosh, do I really want to put money into the stock market? Well, again, just without going into a 101 of the stock market, what you really want to do is just invest in what's called the index. If you don't know what the hell the index is, don't worry about it. It's just the top 500 companies currently operating in the world. That's the index, right? So if you own the 500th best company and it's factored into the index and you have a bad year, you will drop out of the top 500 and then somebody else will come in. In other words, the top 500 companies will always be the index, right? Well, the one thing that the top 500 companies are always going to have in common is they're always going to want to grow. They're always going to want to make more money, and they're always going to want to look after their shareholders so that they can get more capital, right? Because if you make money, you'll be willing to invest more into it. Just think of that's how Amazon got to where it's at. So what does that mean? Well, with artificial intelligence and then being smarter about using the internet, can you see is it possible for the world, not the world, the top 500 companies to not advance? And they're going to be the ones that are going to take most advantage of stuff like artificial intelligence. So a question again, do I see the stock market being a good investment over the next 20 years? I think that it's in for a very bumpy road over the next short period of time. But again, what you want to do is you want to, be thinking about investing in the stock market, because I could categorically guarantee over the next decade that is going to do nothing but wonderful things, right? So I hope I don't, understanding the stock market is the top 500 companies. Like, are they going to accelerate? Are they going to expand? The answer is absolutely. With all that being said, before you go and invest in anything, you need to think about asset allocation. I'm not going to get into that here. If you want my interpretation of it and what asset allocation means to me, just Google my name, Karl Bryan, asset allocation. Or, by the way, if that doesn't bring anything exciting up, just go Karl Bryan. How did Nicolas Cage, Mike Tyson, Michael Jackson go broke? And that will bring it up. But the bottom line is, I've written about asset allocation. I think it's very, very important. You've got to play a little bit of defense. I don't want to get into an asset allocation conversation now, but it's something that you should understand at a high level. And there's people a million times smarter than me that will explain it. But for the business coaches, I think I kind of just lay it out so that you can understand it at a high 30,000 foot vantage point. You can teach it to your clients. But the bottom line, Road Dog, I just want everybody, you got to manage your fear. This is an exciting time. This is an amazing time. They use fear to try and control you. As a business coach, it's your job to rise above that, to help your clients rise above that. So that's what that's what I want to say, man. It's, be excited. Opportunities are plentiful. Business is going to accelerate big time. So that's what I'd say, Road Dog. What do you think, bud?
In no way are we recommending or soliciting or recommending any sort of investment advice. We have to put that disclaimer there.
There we go. Thank you.
Just for the record, Karl Bryan has like a grade 9 education. So
exactly. I failed grade 8 math. Yeah, thank you, Road Dog. Add all that.
Follow his advice. Just know your source. Okay, just a follow up on that. So aside from reading today, like what are you doing to take advantage of the pandemic? Like, is there anything that you're doing?
Yeah, most definitely. The longer it goes, again, I just rise up 30,000 feet, right? You got to be thinking about, you want to be looking at the entire playing field. Okay. So the longer it goes, the more comfortable people are going to get with virtual and creating a dynamic within that, right? Like we found that internally with our business, right? So we're just getting better and better at running. Like, we obviously do a lot of internal, but we've been virtual since day one, so we're at a little bit of an advantage. But I got to tell you that we've learned a lot over the last 6 months, and one of that is just how to run a virtual meeting with like a powerful dynamic, right? Like, we did like a left turn about a month ago with our software, where just basically because I just sat there, I just asked myself again a series of what I think are really good questions. And I'm like, you know what, at the end of the day, like, we've got a lot of coaches that are doing they're doing really well. They're running at max. If you understand, business coaching, and if you're listening to this, no doubt you do. Like a business coach gets to 20 clients and they get pretty close to maxing out, right? So now they can't grow, and it's a little bit of a challenge. So we built a program, which we've had this one for a few years, which is where they can build a team of 10 coaches, right? So one of my guys, he's got, well, I don't know how many, like he's got 70, 80 coaches underneath him. 3 years ago, he had 0, and 3 years of working with us, he's got 70, 80 coaches underneath him, right? But the bottom line is we help people that are growing, like that's a problem. And then we're like, okay, well, we need a solution for it, because we don't come up with quote unquote ideas internally. We talk about problems that our clients have and that the marketplace has, and we try to solve them, right? So we built a team of, like a program where you build a team of 10 coaches and you can go from there. Well, as we continue and we're going through this pandemic, I've realized that like group coaching is something that we're always training our coaches. We build membership sites and that sort of stuff for anybody who works with us. But group coaching is scalable at like the highest level. Like that's the ultimate scalable business coaching model. So one of the things that we see a massive hole, and not only with our, like in the marketplace, let's put it that way. So we thought, you know what, we have got to build a group coaching platform. But what we really need is there's other, there's platforms around the world, yada, but nothing that does what, a coach needs to facilitate group coaching. So basically what we did is we did a little bit of a left turn. And what I'm getting at is that we basically see that. We see people becoming more and more familiar with it. So therefore, group coaching is already popular. And I'm talking about doing it in a virtual space. But we saw that hole, and we are building a formidable group coaching model that is, frankly, it's gonna knock the coaching space. I thought, you know what? Let's find out. We're all gonna know in 3 years. This is not like a tomorrow thing. I mean, I've got 3 full-time employees, including 2 software engineers, working on this right now, full-time. That's all they're doing and all they're thinking about, right? But anyway, so that would be my answer to that, Road Dog. Yeah, and how did we do it? Again, very important. The process is what I think you want to hear here. And it's, first of all, we go to questions, and I'm just asking good questions, I think, about what's, currently happening. And then we're providing solutions for them, right? And also, like, as we're going and we're doing these virtual, meetings internally, we just saw that, look, this is something we're going to be doing more in the future, and we're going to see our clients get better at this, and then our coaching clients getting better at this. So we've got to be able to facilitate that at a higher level. So taking advantage of that with our group coaching. So yeah, that's so that's what we're doing, and again, it's just a matter of, just be really, really careful. The coaches out there, like, or not just coaches, but just anybody. Like it's the people that, what others think of them, they let it worry them to death. Like those are the people that are going to basically disappear off this earth, unfortunately, one day, and they're never going to be thought of. Like, think of the irony of that, right? The ones that worry the most of what people think about them are going to be like the first ones that people forget when it's all said and done, because they never left their mark. They never left an impact. They never went into creation because they were too worried about what people might be thinking as they're moving along, right? So I don't know I think there's an old saying out there. What's that proverb? I don't know what the secret to success is, but I know that it's not wondering what others think about you on a consistent basis. I'm making a meal of that, but no doubt you get the idea. So anyways, Road Dog, that's what we're doing, again, because, coaches, the problem that they have is they max out at about 20 clients. You ever heard me talk about network effects, which of course we've done this on the podcast, Road Dog, multiple times. Just, you got that clock. And once you get to 20 clients, if you picture a clock going in a clockwise direction, once you get to 21, 25, and 30, the clock starts reversing on itself and it goes counterclockwise. So what happens is basically your own business starts turning on itself and you become significantly less, productive. Your clients become less, pleased. Basically your business starts going in the wrong direction. So understanding that, I think, is very, very powerful. But that's what we're doing, buddy. That's what we're doing to, quote unquote, take advantage. Not that we want to take advantage of this horrific situation, but that's kind of what we're doing.
Well, so now, obviously, we talk about virtual and all that sort of stuff. What are your thoughts, like, in terms of offices? Will offices, do you think, will they go back to normal? Or do you think, because think of how many people are now working from home, right? Like, there's been a huge shift in the last Where do you see that? Like, do you see that going back to, business as usual, if you will, to how it was?
Yeah, love it. This, again, anybody listening, I think this, at the end of the day, I don't have the answer, right? That being said, I got to tell you, like when you're playing any sport, what you want to be able to do, the number one competitive advantage you've got over the competition is being able to see the entire playing field, right? That's absolutely critical. So I think that when guiding your clients, this is mission critical. Here's what happened. Folks, they left their offices, right? Laptops underneath their arms, scared crapless that they were going to lose their job, right? So there was a large amount of fear-driven productivity, right? But that adrenaline has now well and truly worn off, and holes are emerging, and staff working from home are fatigued. End of story, right? Like training's more difficult, accountability is more difficult, teamwork, and then not to mention like the home distractions that are there, the people that aren't used to walking by the TV or walking by the kitchen, or even, in some cases having, spouses and maybe kids at home, like problems that were solved in an hour when everybody's in the office are now like taking a day. And then also factoring in like company leases are like 5 years or longer, right? So don't just think that they're like, oh, okay, we'll just do this all virtually, right? Like that's not going to happen. So what really is, and the longer that this goes, I just said it a minute ago, but the more people are becoming, more familiar with it. So what's going to emerge is like a hybrid. Okay. It's going to be, once again, going to be a huge advantage for the business world because you are going to be able to get access to staff. Think about the young mom with bub at home where she's sanely productive, but at the end of the day, she's got a new bub that she needs to look after, and she doesn't know when bub needs to eat and, is going to wake up, go to sleep, etc. But she's got the entire day, and she'll get more done, than 15 people, but she was otherwise, because she couldn't come into the office, she wasn't available, right? So this is a good thing when we talk about accelerating business, and virtual, like Zoom as an example, which is obviously, booming. It's absolutely here to stay. There is no doubt, but it's not going to stay at the level that it's currently at, right? Like something magical happens in an office or when you're together one-to-one, right? Like this is why big techs have cafeterias, right? It's about the masterminding, and then not to mention the family feel that people get of working for your company, right? Like most of Amazon's, if you listen to Jeff Bezos in his interviews and that kind of thing, he'll often talk about and this would be Google as well, but big tech, like a lot of their biggest products and their biggest successes happened by accident, right? So like maybe a really good way of looking at that when you're thinking about it, just from that 30,000 foot vantage point, imagine a hockey team training virtually, right? There's just, some things are just, it's impossible. You can do some of it, right? And again, I think this kind of thing's going to be happening in the future where they are going to start, coming up with new and clever plays, and they'll be able to do it virtually. I can totally see that. But the players are going to have to come to the rink, and the football players are going to have to show up, and the baseball players will have to show up, because there's some things can just not be recreated. But if you think about football as an example, which is very technical, you could see how a play could be designed on Zoom, debatably even better than they could actually do on the field, right? Because everybody, picture the vantage point. You're literally looking at the field and you can see, oh, okay, so I swing that way and Buddy goes there. Oh, cool. So you could totally do that virtually, but you're going to have to show up because the timing is never going to be able to be created virtually. So kind of thinking about it from that standpoint, right? Like the professional football team, the professional hockey team, the professional baseball team is never going to do the majority of their training virtually. It's just not going to happen. So yeah, I don't know, Doug, that's what I'd say there, man. Like even like our group coaching program that I just mentioned, right? That's literally, as I sit here and we do this, right? We got 3 people working, we're not talking interns, right? Again, we're talking, some absolute professionals. They're working on this right now. And where that came was through group discussion. And quite frankly, a little bit, I don't know, it was accidental because we were trying to go in a specific direction. This is where we ended up, but that's what happened. We created this results analysis tool. One of our clients, John Kosar, he literally, we do 2, what we call profit acceleration calls. We do Q&A, right? So everybody's having it's software. It's tech, so people naturally have a little bit of a challenge with it. So twice a week we get together, and the whole idea of the call is all we do is we talk about the software, right? We don't talk about business coaching as a whole, or at least we try to avoid that. But we talk about the software, some of the improvements that we've made, and then the ways to use it, and any questions that our clients have about using it, right? Well, we open up John, and then he's like, oh yeah, this is what I created. And like, again, you literally hear, you go to my, it's on my YouTube channel. It's literally right there. But we're like, oh my gosh, right? And Pat and I are back and forth. We're like, oh my goodness, right? Tell us more. What did you create? Why did you create it? Oh my gosh, this could also work in that. And then John started going, oh my God. And literally within 10 days, it was live. And our clients are like, hey, check this out, right? And by the way, if you're sitting there wondering what the heck is this results analysis tool, just imagine if you're working with some software and then you help 10 businesses. Well, you want to be able to take the results of those 10 businesses, cobble them together and say, well, my clients, like their revenue started here of all 10 and their profits were here. And then there was, again, all 10. So their profit margins were X. And then after going through the process and finding them $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising, this is where we ended up with those 10 clients. And then let's assume you're sitting there with an accountant or, a guy who has a big list of small business owners that he's helping, think a promotional company or a networking organization, what have you. And it's like, well, would you like for me to do this with 10 of your clients? Because I think that you'll find that their results will be very consistent. Like, do you see how all of a sudden that might be a pretty darn good little tool to take social proof and put it on steroids to get the accountant to say, yes, let's do it. So anyway, so we created that literally live in the dynamic, right? So this is the kind of thing. So we have learned that, but there will be a hybrid, again, like, Pat and I, we just got together last week and we sat down and had a beer and we're talking about this and talking about that. And his wife came and I met her and you know what I mean? And so there's a hybrid, is the answer. There are 5-year company leases out there. So the bosses, like, don't think for a second they're just going to take that away. But there is some fatigue happening. Holes are emerging big time. And a hybrid is what's going to, emerge. So, and again, Road Dog, to make sure that what we're trying to do here, I want to make sure that, so when you're coaching your high-end coaching clients, you want to be a little bit, I'd be very careful with thinking, a black and white type scenario in this, that we're going to go all virtual or we're going to go all back to this. I think that what they're going to need to do is create a hybrid, which, by the way, is going to take a little bit of work to make, to get it, across the T's and dot the I's. But that's what I'd say, man. Answer: hybrid will emerge. There you go.
Okay, so speaking of models, obviously I'm marketing sort of not those types of models. Okay, like, I know where you're going with this, and you're not in that group. Speaking of models, though, online you see a lot of this freemium, right? You've heard of this expression, freemium, Karl? So
yeah, but I love it.
So somebody wrote in a question here and just said, freemium models are obviously attractive. Can you do a freemium model with a brick and mortar business, or do you think that's impossible? Maybe if you can just sort of explain what freemium is for those people listening that may not know what it is.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so the question is, so they're talking about, they're just freemium models, but they want to know if they can do that with a brick and mortar. Just make sure I understand the question.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, great question, man. So first of all, look, freemium is just a business model. Okay, so think Facebook. Okay, it's a freebie. Actually, be a little bit different than that. Think LinkedIn as a freemium model, where really what they do. So LinkedIn, it's free. Okay, and then if you really want to take advantage of LinkedIn, you'll buy and I can't think, it's a premium membership or something to that effect. I can't off the top of my head, but there's so you could pay a ridiculously reasonable fee, but then basically accelerate your membership with them. So that would be an example, or maybe a better one is like MailChimp. Okay. So that's like CRM software. It's free to get going, but then once your database grows to 1,000, they charge you a small amount. And then they charge you a little bit more if you get to 10,000 and a little bit more if you get to 100,000, et cetera. Right. So no doubt. So it's free. Or Google Storage would be a good one. It's all free, but once you get to a certain amount of storage, then they start charging you. So think of the intelligence of that, right? So like it's free, but those that actually use it, it's not like they're going to go, oh, you know what? Maybe we'll go somewhere else. Like if you're using storage on Google, basically you're not going anywhere. SurveyMonkey is the same thing. You get a certain amount of surveys for free, but once you start doing it consistently and, adopt it as part of your sales process, which could be very good idea, you start charging later, right? So Facebook wouldn't so much fall into a freemium business model, although it's of the same family big time, where Facebook, our memberships are, what do you want to call them? Their profiles are free. What they're really doing is collecting our data, our interests. Of course, they follow us around the internet and capture all kinds of information. If you don't know that, you get your head in the sand a little bit. But anyway, but then they use our data, and effectively you become the product. I'm the product. Road Dog, you're the product. And anybody listening, you are the product, right? So, and then they sell advertising very targeted to us, right? So that's a freemium model. In fact, I wrote an email, which I think was actually a pretty darn good one, that got a lot of feedback about DoorDash. Might want to check that one out. But if you like the idea of freemium and how do you go about doing this, how do you go about building a kick butt business model? But here's what they did. DoorDash, they launched, and then they provided 1 million, what was it? It was 1 cent Big Macs, I believe. Okay. Now I want you to think this through. Okay. Basically, this is what I refer to as buying clients, which is a slightly different topic, but ridiculously similar, both very, very powerful. Okay. So DoorDash provide 1 million 1 cent Big Macs, but then follow that through. They got 1 million downloads, because you have to have the app downloaded on your phone in order to use it, get your Big Mac, right? You got 1 million new users, 1 million new people using the service, 1 million live credit cards, because they had to go through for 1 cent. Okay. I want you to understand what I just said. 1 million live credit cards. Okay. Public relations on steroids, because again, obviously I heard about it. I didn't download the app. I didn't get a 1 cent Big Mac, but I heard about it. So in other words, the way that I heard about it, because it was written about everywhere, right? So public relation on steroids. So just thinking about that, or maybe even actually, so Lee Woodall is a client of ours, absolute freaking superstar, won a Super Bowl, multiple Pro Bowls, played for the Broncos, played for the Niners. So he's building a team of coaches. And I remember we were talking to one of his guys, right? And then his guy sells websites, right? And I said, okay, so if I were to be in the business of selling websites, like how much do you sell the websites for? And then the answer is roughly, say, $2,000 to $5,000 for his client, right? And then it's like, okay, remember, business is just math. I want you to think about that, right? So if you have a $2,000 unit, if Road Dog has a $2,000 unit of sale, right? So he sells websites for $2,000. And then I sell something worth $12,000 without knowing what Road Dog's selling or what I'm selling, the chances of me being successful are significantly greater. And by the way, if I sell something worth $36,000, then again, my chances of success are ridiculously higher, right? So what I would really do is I want you to think this through. What do people say to themselves? Oh, my website's not working. My website's not driving traffic. My website's not working. That's what they're thinking. It's not driving any traffic. What do they think? They think they need a website. They think they need a business, like what would you call it? Like a business plan to basically drive traffic to their business. But in actuality, one of the challenges that I think you have if you're building, $2,000 to $5,000 websites is that you don't have a high enough unit. It's not that you don't have a high enough unit of sale. It's that, are you sufficiently solving the problem? What is the real problem? And then I would dare say, if I got one of these businesses trying to get a $2,000 website, that they don't have an upsell, they don't have a downsell, they don't have a cross sell, they don't have a proper upfront offer. So it doesn't matter how cool this website is, the chances of it really going to, like, the chances of taking the phone calls or the inquiries and really monetizing them are pretty average, right? So what would I do? I would look at it and I would think to myself, if we did consulting, and conveniently, again, we do business coaching, right? This is what we train people on. But like, what if they changed their model to do free websites, let's say the $2,000 version, and then they walked their clients into a $12,000 to $36,000 consulting relationship where, yes, they helped them with the website, but they also helped them, with their business model. and making sure that they had an upsell, a downsell, a cross-sell, et cetera, right? Think about the difference. Remember, and business is just math. And then I want you to think of how much easier. So what would I do? I would advertise I would have no less than 10 ads running at all times. What would the ad say? We're in the middle of a pandemic. If you've been in business for less than 2 years, we will build you a free website, right? So you would imagine, but you must apply, and there's a little star, conditions apply, yada, 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 right? What you're really doing is they're going to apply. If you're building websites and then you're let's call it renovating. I think that's a bad word, but you get the idea of renovating existing sites for people that have been in business for less than 3 years and affected by the pandemic, right? That could be a way of, isolating your audience and getting them, oh, wow, I fit. I'm going to get approved. Well, you get them on the horn. You understand where their business is at. And then I would build them the website for $2,000. And again, you just hire people overseas. And if you understand building websites, it's to build a $2,000 website is not exactly challenging, right? So you're going to have these people super happy. And then what you do is you'd walk them from that free website, which was really easy to generate leads. And you got applications coming in from these 10 adverts, left, right, and center. And then what I would do is I would get them together. And by the way, if you were a client of ours, you'd use our software, profit acceleration software, to basically find the income opportunities and to really shake them up. But I would say, so you got your website coming. Here's what we got. I can find you $100,000 in 45 minutes without you spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. We normally pay big bickies to do it. You charge you big bickies to do it, but we'll do it for free, right? And let's assume that most people take you up on the offer. Some people are just going to take your $2,000 website. You'll never be able to get them on the phone, or they're going to say no to you, and that's fine. But if you sell 2 to 3 from that process into $12,000 to $36,000 consulting instead of building them websites that, quite frankly, they don't really need, could you see how you now have a freemium business model to bring them in for free, have them apply, and facilitate, build the website, but you're only going to build 10 a month, right? Maybe it start with 3 a month. Maybe you start with 5 a month. Maybe you start at 10 a month, and maybe you'll get to 100 a month. But do you see how that would all of a sudden change things dramatically, right? So I don't know. So I want to make sure I'm explaining that properly. I would advertise a free website. It would be application only. I would get on the horn and understand their clients' needs. We'd build them the website, and then we would throw in a one-to-one consultation where we would go through their business and find them all kinds of opportunities to grow significantly easier, like raising their prices, upsell, downsell, cross-sell, and proper upfront offer, and say what you really need. Yeah, you needed our website, but look, we're willing to do X, Y, Z for you. And then close them into a $12 to $36,000 consulting agreement, accepting that only 3 in 10 will say yes, right? So you're going to do 10 free websites and only get 2 to 3 clients. Well, do your math at the end of the year, and you're going to be significantly further ahead. And by the way, the hardest thing for you to do is generate leads. So you solved that problem big time. And by the way, we have membership sites. So if they're broke, you could plug them in at $100 a month. And then we've got $500 group coaching. And I talked about that a little bit earlier, where we're ramping that up times a million. And then you've got your higher end coaching 1-to-1, where you can take on 20 high end coaching clients. So you'd fill those gaps, right? So I guess that what I'm trying to explain, Road Dog, like that would be an example. I mean, that's a fresh one because that was just recently that comes to mind. So, it's just, I want you to be thinking about, so as you rise up 30,000 feet, I want to make sure everybody understanding what I'm talking about. Can you build a freemium business? Like most people, they don't have a business model, right? So like if I owned a newspaper, here's what I would do. My family had a newspaper growing up, right? I would give the ads away for free for a bunch of different reasons. Same thing. I'd have ads running everywhere. Free. If you're looking to grow, if you're a member of the chamber, if you're a member of BNI, if you were up for an award, I'd give you a free ad. It would be so easy to get advertisers. I would walk them through the same process. Okay, let me understand your business and let's create a killer ad. Through that, we would then move them into a $100,000 profit acceleration meeting. And then from that, we would sell a percentage of them. And again, only 2 to 3 out of 10, we give away lots of free ads, but I would plug them into higher end consulting because does the company really need an ad? Think about that. I always say like advertising is like suicide hotline for businesses, right? Like they're like, oh, I need an ad. A lot of the time it's a Hail Mary to try and, make something happen, right? So hopefully I'm explaining that. My first ever business coach made $330,000 in his first 6 months. Again, networking organization, did the networking for free, grew like wildfire, made it a lot easier to get people in, was highly entertaining, had people, music and good looking people and all those sorts of dynamics. And then basically we're selling, instead of selling like an $800 12-month membership, we're selling, $10,000, because this is way many, decade and a half ago, but then selling higher end membership, selling higher end consulting, which is what they really needed. They didn't need networking. They wanted a community. They were trying to buy referrals. They were trying to grow their business. They were looking for solutions to problems that they weren't sure where to go. And they ended up with you guys. So, they ended up with, in front of our guys. So basically, cut a long story short, and of course the software provides that, so if you're sitting there thinking, how in the heck would you go from free website to $36,000 coaching client? That's why we built the software, right? It basically facilitates that. So I don't know. That's Road Dog. Can you do it? The answer is absolutely. I just want to make sure that everybody's thinking business model, and just use Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram as your framework. And then that DoorDash example, and again, seeing them grow like crazy. And you just Google that, you'll be able to see DoorDash and read all about it. So Road Dog, that's what I got for you, man. Can you do? And I like that question, and I like the fact that somebody again is asking about business models. That's not one that we get very often. And I got to tell you, if I want to just for everybody listening, I want you to try and think of what I was describing there and what freemium might mean to you and your coaching. In fact, I think I sent out an email today. Which, by the way, if you get any, actually, hang on. This is for those listening live, which are our clients. I sent 2 emails today. I got a bunch of emails this morning, but everybody was pissed off that I didn't send out a joke today, or anything inspirational. But the first email had one. But anyway, so we send those out. That's a little bit of our freemium as well. So again, we're eating our own cooking around here. But thinking business models is very, very powerful, and I would like for our folks to be thinking about that. It's a powerful concept, man. It's a powerful concept. So, all of that. What do you think, Road Dog? Make sense? Like?
What I like the fact that you still call it getting on the horn. That's beautiful. I haven't heard that. Wow. Like, we're gonna get you on the horn. Like, what are we doing? What is this, 1980s?
If you live in Australia, and I live in Australia, it's called the dog and bone. We got to get on the dog and bone. That's the phone.
Well, what else did you say? It's going to cost you a bunch of Mickeys? Like, what the hell is that?
The Garbo. A Harry, going to chuck a sickie. Anyways, there you go, Road Dog. Give you
We're gonna have to
101 lesson, maybe.
We're going to have to add a translator, I think, into the mix. I do my best. I can only translate from Canadian and from German, but you're from Karl. That's the world. Listen here, big fella. Can you close us out with giving our listeners your one thing that they can do today from today's podcast?
One thing. Actually, you know what? I was just about to say something, and I just realized that my train of thought went. But here, so email that I sent out, and again, those listening live are going to, it's today. Those not listening live, this would be, some time ago. Don't know how long, but maybe a week or two. But so here's what I said in the email, right? And again, just talking, this isn't so much business model, but it comes to offers. And it's like, so if it were Black Friday or it were Cyber Monday, you say to yourself, well, I'm not going to send out an offer because nobody would buy. You know what? And you're probably close to correct. But what if you get one person to buy? And I literally put an offer for a business coach right there, point blank. I said, send this out. And again, on my feedback or my Facebook feed, I woke up this morning and again, guess what? I saw a number of them, right, from our guys, which is awesome. So what I was saying is that you don't do it because you don't think anybody's going to buy, but what if just one person bought? And what if you did it on, like Black Friday, you did it on Cyber Monday, you did it on Thanksgiving, you did it on Christmas, you did it on New Year's, you did it on your birthday, you did it on your company's birthday, you did it on your anniversary, your company's anniversary. What about your anniversary? Basically just on every holiday, if you did it and say you picked out 10 holidays throughout the year, right? Well, wouldn't that would be 10 coaching sales per year. And then here's the magic. And again, you hear me talk about compounding all the time and you're getting better at it. As you get better at it and your audience gets used to hearing you sending out these cool offers on these holidays, your results will increase. So you'll go from getting one sale on, call it Cyber Monday, and then end up getting two. And then if you did it 10 times a year, that would be 20 coaching clients a year, right? Let's just say you have a 50% attrition rate, right? Well, you got 10 clients that are sticking around. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just got to have a crack, right? Remember, just money, marketing, wealth, business, it's just psychology. And that's an example of where somebody like asking, like, here's the question: what if one person buys? And by the way, and then why don't we do it? Because we don't want to look silly. What did I say earlier? If you sit here worrying about everybody, you know, what everybody's thinking about you, you're going to end up being the person that's going to disappear from this planet and have nobody thinking about you. And that's a freaking crying shame. And of course, your family, you guys get what I mean. I'd say the business world here. I don't want to be too dramatic and too harsh, but you see the idea there? Like, that's, you know what I mean? So just have a crack and go. And by the way, just go look at my emails and I'll just tell you it's Cyber Monday today. So if you're listening to this in a couple of weeks, just Google, you know, search your inbox for my email with Cyber Monday and you're going to see the offer. So make sure at Christmas and New Year's that you send it out. And part of the X factor, which I said in the email, but don't send it to somebody and say, hey, do you want to buy? Say, do you or somebody you know would you or somebody you know be interested in this, right? The X factor, which I said in the email, is somebody that you know. So then they forward it because they're like, hey, Lucy just started a business. This might be perfect for her. This is a really ripping offer. And Gabe's a superstar. Susie's a superstar. Lucy, whatever. I'm going to forward this. And if you get one sale, you get one sale. And if you don't, just, hey, you live by that mantra, but you're no longer going to be controlled by what people might think. And believe me, people, and people are not thinking about you. They're a little bit tied up in their own head. They're not worried about you and your offers and how your business is going, etc. So don't worry about it. So that's what I want to shut us down with, Road Dog. I think that's a good one, bud.
Okay, so the one thing is go out and make an offer. How's that? Is that fair?
That was much better worded than I did. There you go, shoot.
Okay, so there you go, folks. That's how you take 5 minutes of Carl's rambling and put it into one.
Thank you, Road. That's why you're here, Road Dog. That's why we love you, brother. Thank you.
I'm not just here to help you hang your Christmas lights because they don't make ladders tall enough for you. Anyway. All right, everybody. Well, I hope that was helpful. And thanks for tuning into another great episode of Business Coaching Secrets with my man on top of the hill, my boy, Dr. King Karl, attorney at law. If you're not on the inside, which I continue to make these subtle little comments about, and you're not getting access to the pre-show, and you're not getting Karl's daily emails, here's my one thing for you today. Go to focused.com and sign up for his daily email. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share with a fellow coach or someone that you think might make a great coach, someone that's a great salesperson or just the highly motivated type. And of course, we'd appreciate it if you'd rate this episode, as we know that iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, all these great places give an insane amount of weight towards reviews. So please leave us a review if you like what you heard. Well, big fella, can you believe it? That's it for another week. So remember, everybody, progress equals happiness. Make it an awesome week, everybody.
Karl Bryan built Profit Acceleration Software 2.0 to train business coaches how to find any small business owner more than $100,000 in 45 minutes without them spending an extra dollar on marketing or advertising. This becomes a business coach's superpower. So as a business coach, you'll never again have to worry about working with business owners that can't afford your high-end coaching fees. Check us out at focused.com.